Welcome to Insights and Inspiration. I'm Andrew Marlowe.
I'm Monica Marlowe. And tonight we have some special guests. And if they would introduce themselves so that I don't have to remember who they are.
Really?
No, I know who they are. I'm just going to let them do it this time.
Who wants to go first?
The guy in the red shirt.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm the guy in the red shirt. I'm Anthony from Cypher Unlimited, aka Spigs18. We have a YouTube channel, a Twitch stream, and we have a pretty big Cypher-centric Discord server.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm like the other guy that's not in the red shirt. I go by Alpha Dean or AD Dean, whatever you want to call me. It's all that. And I'm a game master, a writer, sort of a game designer, I guess. And they're part of the Discord channel that we so lovingly refer to as Cypher Unlimited.
Right.
And we're here to talk to you about May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
He's also the Aslan of the CU.
The Aslan. Yes, I did. Yeah, that was a great compliment that was paid. I was told that I am the Aslan of gaming because I was written.
Wow.
And I sort of kind of was.
So, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before was May the 4th.
Yes, it
and
was.
And we did a all day crazy gaming marathon here on Twitch. And a little bit on YouTube because James isn't on Twitch.
Correct.
And unfortunately, James couldn't be with us tonight, but you were in his game.
Yes. Yes, I was.
So with James, we started with the last blood sacrifice on Endor. Yes. And then we ran back-to-back Marlowe House Star Wars material.
So, and those were like Rogue One era.
Rogue One and then New Hope era.
New Hope era.
And then Cypher Unlimited rounded out our evening, and they ran cleanup in Sector 57. I have that number correct, right?
Yes.
Great time. Apparently they can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah, but the chat says that we're not very loud, and I can't tell if it's because Scott's being... Can you be more specific, Scott? I should probably text him rather than...
Can you hear me, Scott? We have to wait for like the 6-minute, delay. OBS says I'm loud, but I can't tell.
Yeah, I know. That's what I don't understand. I mean, we're blowing it out over here, so I just want to make sure that I don't turn it up too loud.
Hold on, let me mute you.
Skype people are low.
All right, I can bring them up.
Because
oh,
that's better.
Hamlet at Cambridge.
I think you guys are louder now. Are they good?
Well,
chat. I know these 6-minute delay.
Yeah, it does make it kind of hard. Well, and you can.
But our partner in crime is apparently watching from home tonight.
Well, and the biggest problem we have is that it's the non-Marlows. Oh, okay. Oh, volume on the non-Marlows is low. Oh, all right. I see. We'll turn.
That's what Scott said. Skype people are low. I'm trying to bring them up.
Can you hear us now? Do we sound
I was going to say
low?
take them up to -3.
Well, I don't want to blow everything out.
Well, we should be good then.
1,
I think we're
2, 3.
I think 4. You guys are in good shape now.
Probably good enough. At least enough now that.
We're naturally loud guys. We could scream if we have to.
Yeah.
I think we're probably pretty good.
Yeah.
We should be good to go. So, at any rate, so why don't we do this backwards?
Okay, let's do that.
Since we have Cypher Unlimited on, let's start with the last show first. And
sounds good to me.
That is available entirely on YouTube now, correct?
Yeah, so it's in 2 parts. It was a 2.5-hour session. We broke it up into 2 videos to make it easier for the viewer.
Yeah.
First off, I want to say thank you for inviting us. We had a blast. It was awesome.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I was gonna say thank you for coming on. I mean, we were just looking for other Cypher people that we knew were Cypher streamers to come on and do the show, and I saw you had. I didn't realize this till I started rewatching your video. You had, is it Eric Frankhouse?
Yes, correct.
And he's another Cypher streamer, correct?
Yes. He's first of all, I love Eric. He's one of my favorite people in the world. You know, he's an excellent map maker. He has multiple podcasts. He streams. He kind of does it all.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah.
You know, and just so everybody knows real quick, I wasn't in the games on that Faithful Standard because life, I made a big boo-boo and had family in town. I couldn't be there because I was actually supposed to run a stream too, you know. But hey, it'll come. We'll get it up there.
It'll happen.
But I am very familiar with Cleanup in Sector 57 because I've played in that adventure.
We're losing Dean.
Classic.
Dean is digitizing again.
Yeah, we're hearing you. Dean was fizzling.
Yo,
so tell us.
Fizzling.
Yeah,
you were fizzling out. It was. I don't know how else to explain it.
You sounded
very
pixelated.
Digitized.
Oh wow!
If sound could be pixelated.
You know, it makes sense.
Alrighty, so Anthony, tell us a little bit about your game and how it went.
Well, I was gonna say,
okay.
Like I was gonna say about the game, but I mean, who did you have playing? And
we had you guys know Al. You had him on last week to promote the game.
Yeah.
So it was we had Ancient Albatross. We had Eric Frankhouse, who played the director of HR,
which was hilarious.
then we had Omar Gecko on the CU. He played information droid who's foci doesn't do basically Eric Frankhouse assistant. So he had a droid that did zero work and actively attempted to avoid work during the entire adventure.
Sounds like an HR kind of thing.
Then we had Steven Seifert, who he has several adventures up on the Cypher Creator Program as well. He's a content producer and he's one of our mods on the server. He played a janitor whose foci was idolized by millions. So we came up with the concept that he actually boarded the Death Star to film an extreme makeover.
Oh, is that what the e-podcasting or whatever it was called?
He came
YouTubing.
He came to eTube an extreme makeover of the compactor, the Death Star's compactors. And Al played a Wookiee barber, Wookiee stylist, hater for a haircut.
We kind of lost you there. What was the Wookiee in the haircut?
He was contracted for Vader for a haircut.
Yeah.
No, we all know that Vader doesn't need a haircut.
So that was a pretty hilarious scene.
And let me preface all of this because, I mean, Anthony went over like all the characters, but so everybody understands, Cleanup in Sector 57 basically takes place on the Death Star the day the rebels attack it, that it's blown up. But it's all the people who are not major players. It's all the mundanes on the ship.
It's
okay.
So it's from Clerks.
It's like taking that scene from Clerks and blowing it out to an entire humorous story.
Eric Frankhouse, I think, put it the best. He was he said it was Spaceballs meets Clerks meets Star Wars.
Actually, I think it's all of those that meets Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which is the characters from Hamlet.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that movie, you have to, because it is hilarious.
That movie is great.
So we spent the entire session planning a potluck dinner.
Was the potato salad an issue again?
Yes.
They didn't put raisins in it, did they?
We found out that the Emperor had one rule for the potluck dinner. It was that absolutely no potato salad was either spoken or made. And then potato salad was like the running theme throughout the whole game. It was pretty fun. They managed to get Obi-Wan killed at the very end.
Well,
So,
that's how it's supposed to
Continuity.
end.
all in all, it was a pretty good time.
Oh my god.
So if you're at all interested in the ridiculous hilarity of cleanup on sector 51, 57. Why did I say 51?
I don't know why. I don't know. I mean,
I knew 57 a minute ago.
You're thinking about Area 51.
Clearly.
that's on YouTube.
That's on YouTube.
We'll get there.
I got distracted by my own just ridiculousness. So, you guys are on YouTube under Cypher Unlimited?
Correct. And for some reason, we couldn't get Cypher Unlimited on Twitch, so we Cypher Unlimited live on Twitch.
Okay. Because that's always the way it goes, right?
Right. Because we're Marlowe House on most platforms, and then like one or two where we are Marlowe House Games because other people got there first.
Yeah.
Squatters.
There's some weird places called Marlowe House, but we're the best Marlowe House.
Possibly the weirdest.
We're definitely the weirdest.
There's probably a coffee shop in Alaska named Marlowe House.
There's some. If you go to YouTube, you can still you can find a couple places that when you type in Marlowe House, it pulls some stuff. But now we've got enough that we pretty much overwhelm what the others have, just in sheer numbers.
We're hoping to get enough numbers on YouTube to eventually get a shorter URL that we can just be like, yeah, we're Marlowe House on YouTube, as opposed to we're
these random letters and numbers that we have to pull up.
Because
we actually just got our URL a month ago. We were super psyched about that.
Yeah, I would be super psyched about that. So what did you guys have to do to get that URL? Is it just to have 100 subscribers?
Yeah, it was 100 subscribers and a small number of views. It wasn't, the view number wasn't that large. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, so can you pimp us?
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna put it out there. Can you pimp us? Because we'd really like to have a smaller URL too.
I mean, I've watched all your guys' stuff on YouTube, and you guys deserve it because you guys do great videos. So if anyone hasn't watched it, they should.
Thanks.
Right, you guys do great work. I mean, Monica, I still remember Monica walking up to me at Gen Con. So, we got to make sure some stuff happens, and get some stuff out there during Gen Con on YouTube and on Twitch and everything else.
Well, it looks like we're going to probably be there at least Saturday. So maybe we can try to, I don't know what we'll do. We're trying to see how much of Gen Con we can make happen this year. So we definitely want to try to get.
Even if we don't game, we got to have a drink together.
Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
My wife will be there this year too. So, we'll make sure that happens.
Cool.
Well, we're limited on how much Gen Con we can do because unfortunately with Monica's new job,
there's no vacation time.
Right, the vacation time gets all taken. So
bring that bacon home, Monica.
Well, it is definitely some pretty tasty bacon too. So I just have to hang in there until I have about 8 to 10 years of seniority so that I can feed out the people that are behind me.
Right. Or people need to retire.
Well, there's a lot of people talking about retiring. So
yay!
Maybe in 5 years I'll be able to take my vacation time in August when I want it.
You gotta stop dropping like the subtle hints. Man, you look old. Oh, what,
you need to,
Oh man. Nobody needed that.
Vader,
sorry.
You get those pictures of Vader sitting in his thing booth.
Oh no!
Your hair looks a little bit like this.
So the sad thing is I work with people all across the state of Ohio, and the ones that I work with in my area most often I really like a lot, and some of them have like 20 and 25 years of seniority, and I'm like. You're like 5 years older than me. So I'm really upset that all those years I've been trying to get on with, government agencies and I've failed. And I'm just like, if I could have just gotten on with, OSHA back in the early 90s when I first applied, or, the city when I first applied, all those things. I could have 25 years and I could be looking at retirement too.
Yeah, well.
Oh, so they probably have like 6 weeks vacation as well.
They do.
Right?
Well, and they do. And that's the problem. They had to limit them to 4 weeks of vacation when we do our vacation requests, but you have to be limited to 4 weeks of vacation is a lot. So my vacation scheduled time was April, and my other options are like September and October, but not November or December.
Or like a day here and a day there.
Yeah, February. Yeah. February was also wide open. I can't imagine why. So anyway, so
working backwards.
Yes, I know we got distracted. Sorry.
So then we did Tatooine Manhunt, which we tapped 2 of our old vampire players back from when we used to LARP Vampire to come in and actually play at our table, which was a lot of fun.
We have not actually gamed with them, and we have not gamed with either one of them in person in probably 20 years.
Close to.
Like,
awesome. Yeah, it's probably been more like 16 or 17.
Yeah. But it's been a while.
20s, okay.
Right.
So who were they? Shout them out.
So
Chris,
we had
Chris Kemper and
John Nicely.
John Nicely. And he came down from Columbus, which is about an hour, 2.5 hour drive to get here. So
that's awesome.
I was
So where were you guys at in Ohio?
We are in Cincinnati.
Oh, you're not far from me then.
Where are you?
I can get to you guys. I'm in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, that's only about 7 hours.
Yeah.
5 was it? Well,
7 hours. Plus 6.
5 to Cleveland. So yeah.
No, it's 4 to Cleveland.
Well, it's 4 to Cleveland for me too, but when Andrew drives, it takes a little longer.
That's because me and speed limits need to match up.
Well,
because we know what happened the last time I actually sped.
The speedometer went out and the cop caught us.
So, true story, I almost went to jail over a traffic violation because
a bunch of
things went horribly sideways about a year apart. So we were coming up. We had visited some people that we knew in Louisville, and we were driving up through Kentucky, and we were almost to the Ohio border, and I was doing probably 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour. I was moving with traffic.
Yeah.
And then suddenly traffic melted away from me. And I am the only one doing 80.
And it's on it's a Sunday morning, and we are in a construction area. But it is a Sunday morning, and there is nobody on the road, but a bunch of cars moving at about 75, 80, and the cop who pulled us over.
Right. And so
nobody's working.
Right.
Nothing.
So everything they all like drift back away from me, and lights. Woo!
But
and I'm like, so the cop comes up, and he's like, so do you know how fast you're going? I said, absolutely not, officer. As you can see here, my speedometer and everything else on my dashboard is dead.
Because about a week beforehand, there was a short in his dashboard, and it would
Everything
work. Everything would work. And then all of it would go. And we would be driving, and all the needles would be, in the off position. And we would have to fill it up with gas just to make sure we were keeping track of mileage, especially since we drove to Louisville in it.
Right. And so the officer's like, so do you know how fast you're going? I said, it just went out, and they're all dead. I said, you can see that the engine is ice cold. He says, in that case, I will write you a ticket for the lowest amount possible. I said, thank you. And so
we did say he was keeping up with the rest of traffic.
And he agreed with me. He's like, yeah, but didn't you notice that everybody else just peeled back? I said, yes, I did. And I was trying to figure out why when you hit your lights. So flash forward about a year, and I get a message or actually, I don't get a message. I went to go get my license. That's what it was. I went to go get my license renewed, and I walk in to get my license renewed, and they're like, "We can't renew your license. You've got a block."
Oh, they took points.
No. They claim they never got the payment.
They never got the payment.
We sent it, but we sent it as like a cashier's check or something.
And I couldn't find proof of payment.
Right.
So I had to pay this not once, but twice.
So we
and the
still-
second time was double.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was missing payment. So we ended up paying 3 times.
And to top it off, I found out when I was trying to reapply for it that there was probably a warrant out for my arrest
Yeah.
that nobody had bothered to call in on. And I'm talking to the state of Ohio, and I'm like, why didn't anybody contact me? And they're like, well, you might have moved. You have my driver's license. You might have checked.
I mean, you know where to send my tax information to. So you know where my paychecks are going.
So, and I had moved, not at that point, not between the incident and but I had moved recently-ish, but I had moved from a house where my parents lived.
Sounds like something exciting.
Yeah.
Welcome to New York City, guys. That's like lullaby music. Oh, it's nighttime.
So I had moved, but my parents were still living in the same house they'd been living in for like 15 years. So nobody, even if they had gone to the last known address,
Yeah,
which
they would've
isn't the
found
one on my
someone.
license, they would have found somebody. So
Right.
it was like, oh my
I
gosh.
mean, but that's counting your blessings. They knock on your door and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That would have
they-
been worse.
yeah.
parents
So,
like, hey, your son has.
well, and I was I was an adult at that point, but still, I mean, it's like, oh my word. So
So anyway,
Well,
I
so
just
it's
don't
been...
I just don't speed anymore because that was way more expensive than I ever wanted to pay again.
So if we ever go to Buffalo, I'll be driving. So back to the game.
Yeah, since we completely derailed off course.
This is why our show runs for an hour every week, no matter what we're talking about.
Right, and we're already
Even if it's only like 15 minutes worth of content.
right. So
The
we
moth, the bug just flew through here. What's on the screen? Oh, you know what? It probably flew right in front of the camera. It didn't actually fly over us. I was like, this great big Mothra's going through. I was like, what the hell was that?
so we tapped some of our old vampire friends to come in, and we played Tatooine Manhunt, which was a ridiculously truncated version of the West
Oh,
End
yeah.
Games module.
I mean, it's like usually like 3 to 4 like full sessions, and we did it in sadly 5 hours, which
Yeah, it
we
was a
apologize for
5-hour
trouncing
video.
onto your time. But wow, we're like,
Yeah, we
get through it.
and sadly,
That's
if
still
I
pretty awesome.
and if I had realized exactly how things were going to go, I would have truncated other things out and just I don't know, but
I had a
Yeah, you
blast.
see,
it was fun.
I had the reverse effect. I was so worried about keeping it under 2.5 hours that I think I cut scenes out that I should have left in.
Yeah, because like I said, when I played it, I played Milton Solostar, who was Han Solo's brother, who became. You found out that Han Solo changed his name because he didn't want to be associated with the family anymore. He was a supply man. It was a great. I'm telling you, that adventure is something. Anthony, you need to write it up and put it on the Cypher.
That would be awesome.
Creator. That
Maybe not
adventure's awesome.
Yeah, maybe not the creator page, but
Yeah.
because I'm not certain it would be as much. I don't know that it would be as much fun once you filed off Darth Vader and the Death Star.
Yeah, that's the problem when you're doing something
Yeah.
like
But
like what we
post
did
it,
as
but definitely
parody.
post that sucker
Yeah.
out there for people to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we run stuff like there's multiple GMs running games on our server, and at least once every a month, one of the main CU guys is running a one shot for groups on there. So we definitely get games in for members on the server.
Mhm.
Yep. And then so for our first game,
Mhm.
we invited Keith Capel, who is a freelance writer for Fantasy Flight Games, and he does a lot of their Star Wars line. So it was really fun to have somebody on who really knows their Star Wars. and then we also invited a local to us
Third-party
game
publisher.
designer and third-party
designer.
publisher Randy Price, they're apparently working on their own game that they're going to release at some point under Two Kings.
Two Kings Games, I believe. Is
Yeah,
what
Two
it
Kings
is.
Games. And in the meantime, they're apparently working on some Pathfinder and 5e stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of cool to have in some other game designers on our first run through.
And Keith is actually ex Navy. He did some intelligence works and stuff. He worked for like one of the higher officers and stuff like that. And he's told us a little bit about it. And I honestly don't know enough about the Navy to be able to give it like.
It's cool though.
Yeah, but what was neat is that because he is so knowledgeable in both Star Wars and the Navy, I was like, why? I'm serving him and I don't have the foggiest idea what I'm doing here.
Yeah, it was,
I'm just here for the ride.
he knew more about the military than I do, and that's not exactly hard, honestly.
Yeah. I caught some of that game, and I saw he was helping you guys out with the nautical.
Right, which is really cool.
Yeah, he was giving you the terms for the ranks and stuff. I saw some of that game. That was actually really good. I have a question to ask you. How do you think the adaptation of Star Wars works with Cypher System? Do you think it's easy, simple? Is there something you wish, like a mechanic that Cypher has that would help you?
I like the way it adapts to Cypher, but I think you can adapt. All right. This is like my personal soapbox. You can adapt almost anything to almost any rule set. Some things work better than others.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could run. I mean, we have seen Star Wars successfully run in the D6 system. We've seen it run in the D20 system, which is essentially the same game mechanics that run Pathfinder and D&D. I mean, even the current edition of D&D is not that big a jump from there. Fantasy Flights, which is, if you've not played it, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's
neat. I love it. But I also really like adapting it to Cypher, because Cypher has a really easy to grasp set of mechanics. And because of the way you put together a character, you can make a character that fits really nicely into the Star Wars universe. And you can do it different ways.
Well, and even in the Cypher core rulebook, it has a bunch of different focuses that it recommends for specific genres. So I think if you stick more closely to their sci-fi specific
touch
list,
maybe a little bit of the fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, some like for your Jedi especially, but if your Jedi could be adepts who use weapons or whatever, use melee. I forget. There's a bunch of
combat flavor.
Well, I used for the characters that I made for both games, I did the Jedi character was probably the hardest to adapt, and it was still pretty easy because what I ended up doing is I wrote it up as an adept who wields wields weaponry or whatever.
Wields dual weapons.
No, the one weapon. It's the master's weaponry. Master's weaponry.
Master's weaponry. Yeah.
So I made it something at a mysterious adept who masters weaponry. And I just reflavored the whole thing into being a Jedi, and we did things like I took push and we just made it force push.
Far Step was Jedi Jump.
Was the Jedi Leap. We did. There's one that's I don't know if it was a spinner ability that I snuck over into the adept list, or if it's one from the list, but it's one where you can kind of you say something and people go, yeah.
Yeah, there's a memory one. There's a
speaker abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I snuck over a speaker ability.
Well, see, and that's honestly, I agree that the adaptability of Cypher System, once you've been playing, you can't do. you know, with Star Wars, I've done things like I've even taken a speaker and turned a speaker into a Jedi because
which is a good
going from
one.
Yeah.
what you say, going from the pretenses of the old games where you had the Jedi Counselor versus the Jedi Knight versus the so I built
Enthrall
Jedi
is
Counselor.
definitely a Jedi ability.
Right. And
What'd
I
you
almost
say?
These enthrall, these are not the droids you're
Oh
looking
yeah,
for.
right.
enthrall and memory, erase memory, all the little nuances and just stuff like that. And then of course with flavors,
Right.
you can also one up things because like for the like I said, building the Jedi Counselor, I actually took the magic flavor and the entangle ability, entangling forces.
Oh,
Use that
okay.
for him, as a hold, the Jedi holding ability, where he,
Well,
you
yes,
know,
stasis is something that adepts and it can do. I mean, and you can flavor those powers a
Right.
little bit differently too. Like stasis,
Yeah.
maybe they're still able to, like, you got them force choke down, but that's really
Right.
their stasis, and that's just how that looks.
Or it's like the thing where they reach out with the force and they just like
Hold
paralyze
you,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I did entangling forces for, because this way you could still talk, but he's holding you in place.
Mhm.
Right.
And the same concept. I use the same concept. After watching the Force Awakens, Kylo Ren just snatched the bolt, the blaster bolt midair.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
the
I will
hedge
say-
magic goes a long way.
Yes. I will say this, though. With Cypher, you can adapt anything, but you need players that are willing to accept your flavor, you reflavoring ability, as opposed to the raw that's written.
Right.
Because, certain players that come from other systems, they don't necessarily, they don't necessarily have the adaptation of abilities so freely the way we do with Cypher. So it's sort of like a different world almost. So when unless you're playing with a group of seasoned Cypher players
Or
then-
newbies.
or newbies, yeah, because you could always mold them into any
Well,
style of game you want.
Or anybody who's actually just accustomed to reflavoring things. There's a big even in the Pathfinder communities, there's a big circle of people who do reskins of monsters and reskins of abilities, and it's not too terrible to reskin the flavor around things. As long as the mechanics work the same way. And so you can take a lot of those types of players and bring them in, and they can adapt to that pretty easily.
Which is why I think our second game works so well because, and even our first game, John and Chris play a lot, and they're both very creative, and so is Keith and Randy. I mean, that's why we chose them to game with us, because we knew that they were all very capable of thinking on their feet and being able to quickly adapt Star Wars, which we all know about, to something that's in a very narrative game. So, as long as we were all we were all able to suspend the same sense of reality at that very moment, it worked. And that was all that really mattered. And that's why I think I really like Cypher System as a whole, is because as long as everybody's on the same page, it doesn't matter. We talk about this game a lot because our Sunday night game has been very dynamic. But my character in that game has kind of turned into, or more fully formed into, an assassin. And she's had the opportunity to kill multiple clones of the same person. And in our last combat, we were fighting the original, not the clone. And I had 3 XP, and I wanted to get something that would give me a bonus, and I only had 3 XP, so I couldn't buy a full skill. So I actually bought the temporary skill, knows how to kill Delgado, because I've killed
That's awesome.
3 or 4 of his clones already, so I know where all of his soft spots are, and I know where to poke him really
And,
good.
and you bought that in the middle of combat.
I bought it in the middle of combat, and while I was getting
That's
ready to go
awesome.
in on my last attack on him. I was gonna sneak. I'm a stealthy character, so I have like fights from the shadows or whatever it's called. So I'm invisible until I come up and stab you through like the head, which I like to do a lot. And so in order to get that additional bonus, I bought that just for that specific shot. And
That's awesome.
but that's what's nice about it is if you have a good story and you have a little bit of XP, you don't have to have a lot. You can really make some stuff happen and
We,
just add to that ability.
Well, that's one of the things that we've been doing for the longest. I think since Anthony and I got together, it was just something that was a natural. I don't know.
Player intrusions.
Our player intrusions, we were doing it before they introduced it in Numenera.
Mm-hmm.
We charged 2 XP for it, but it was just like something that was so natural. It's like, here, you're the player. Take hold of the narrative for a few minutes.
They kind of hinted to that with the immediate benefits and being able to pick up a skill, and it's a really natural extension from that one piece to then a full-on player intrusion. We don't use those as often as I would like to.
Yeah, I think they're awesome.
But it's one of those things that we've got a group of players for our regular game that are more we're all from a more crunchy rules background,
but we also all LARPed,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, which is really
but LARPing makes you think on your feet, and you have to be able to.
It does, but I mean, it's just that sometimes because the player intrusions are not as, it just doesn't always flow naturally out of that.
Well, they're not natural. They're not natural in the sense of coming from a crunchy game,
right? And that's what I'm saying is that they're really that it's something that we're training towards it, but we haven't quite gotten there.
Right, and I think that's the thing about it is when we play, like the group on Discord, you guys got to come play with us and you'll see it. We kind of even encourage it and also kind of put you in a position where you really have no choice but to use an intrusion. It'll be a natural thing for you to want to use that player intrusion.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like from reading Numenera, Discovery, and Destiny, how they even took the idea of player intrusions and kind of focused them a little bit based on the character type. So they have a specific kind of intrusions. For example, warrior type intrusions are
I
like
know a
what
guy.
you did, Monica.
Yeah.
Like what you did. I'm
really good at killing this guy because I've done it a bunch of times already.
Exactly.
Right.
Or you might have a specific weapon that you didn't have in your inventory or something like that. Whereas a speaker, his player intrusion might be, I know a guy in the, I know a guy in the, or in the city, little things like that. So I think with that idea, if you look at, the Numenera books and see how they kind of do it, you can just naturally move it forward.
Yeah. Our Sunday game is actually Numenera, but we have not moved into the newer books much
because we knew we were going to end it. We're actually
we're
like in the
last.
We're like in the last 2 or 3 sessions, if that. So,
have you played any of the other setting books like Gods of the Fall, Predation?
We have done a little Predation.
Mm-hmm. We want to run Gods of the Fall, but we're kind of waiting on that to finish this one.
Well, to be honest, as much as I like the other ones, the thing. All right, so for settings that are like published settings coming from Money Cook Games, the one I am most excited for, I haven't seen a word of yet.
Which
and
one?
That is The Stars Are Fire.
Yeah.
I'm most excited for Stay Alive.
Stay Alive is exciting.
We just lost Anthony.
Anthony just dropped.
Well, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Oh, there he is. Yeah,
welcome back.
I'm very excited for like the fairy tale, like all of the ones that they announced on that Kickstarter. just are really neat. I was excited about Predation, and I probably have run it more than Andrew has.
It's so much fun.
It's a neat
Our
setting.
biggest problem is getting the rest of the players at our regular table for buy-in, because they really like fantasy. They really like Pathfinder. They really have enjoyed Numenera, and they've kind of embraced it a lot more than we thought. The first time they played it, they weren't real.
I think
keen.
we've got a lot more buy-in on a sit down and come up with our game together as a group, though.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, but we've been gaming with these individuals off and on for 20 years. One of the Scott, who plays with us on Friday night, he's come to our house for probably the last 20 years on a weekly basis to game with us. Because Andrew and I are going to be married 19 years in June, and we were together before that, obviously, for a little bit. And we've had this house for almost for over 16 years. And I can't think of a time when Scott wasn't part of our regular weekly gaming group. Sometimes it was just him, me, and one other person.
Well, currently it is just you, me, and him on
Friday nights.
On one night.
Right, which I was surprised how well we do, just the three of us even playing Cypher. Like, it is a very you can mold it to where you need it.
It can be very intimate.
I also think that combats run so quickly, you could accomplish a lot more in a shorter period of time, narrative wise.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a 3 or 4 hour session, you could really dig deep story and cover a lot of ground.
Combat is one of my favorite things about this game. Combat in Cypher does two things that I wish more games did. One, it can be done very quickly and easily with very minimal stress on the GM. You don't have to. You can run a combat and not focus on this rule or that rule, or it really is 99% the rule of cool. Is that cool? Yep.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's do that. Let's do that thing. And you don't have to sweat a lot of the mechanics on it. The other thing that it does really, really well, as far as I just totally lost my train of thought.
Something else you like about combat?
Combat in Cypher, it's fast, it's easy.
It's visually satisfying on a I don't know. That's what I like about it. I get to narrate
on an
what it all looks
emotional
like.
level.
I have lost my train of thought. I hate it when this happens.
This was really important to Andrew, as you can tell. Okay, so
it's exciting. And
as we approach 10 minutes to 10 o'clock, we have yet to talk about the Ewok murder hobos.
Yes.
So
that game. First of all,
Wait a minute. Stop.
it was Cannibal Ewok. I watched that thing. That was hilarious.
So the first game that we started at 9 o'clock in the morning was the Ewok Saturday morning cartoon meets The Road.
Oh my God.
And so the premise of it was that after the battle at the moon of Endor happened and the Death Star fell into the atmosphere, the Ewoks were left to fend for themselves, and
in a crumbling ecology.
In a crumbling ecology. And the belief was that so where the Death Star landed, it had like created a molten pit, like volcanic kind of molten rock. And the Ewoks were making annual live sacrifices to the angry lava gods, basically, in hopes of healing their planet. So our our tribe had this wise chief who got together enough money to either fly the remaining living Ewoks off the planet, or to hire bounty hunters to kidnap someone famous from the Star Wars universe to make this a blood sacrifice. So
because they felt that a more important individual would make a better sacrifice.
Right. So we kidnapped Admiral Akbar. So our wise chief died in the opening scene when Admiral Akbar tried to escape and killed him. But
It's a trap.
It was a trap. Oh my God, the whole thing was a trap. So, in order to make refresh rolls, we had to consume the flesh of another creature and make our because we were like all starving and stuff like that. So my Ewok was Dubber Yub. Someone else named it Dubber Yub, the kind Ewok explorer who murders. And I was only one of many. So we started out by singing the Star Wars theme song, because obviously
if you have not watched this video, this is so worth watching.
Awful. And James prepared a crawl that he held up to the camera, but then he did actually have a crawl, but we couldn't read it because we were singing and laughing so hard. I was like crying, and that was in the first 5 minutes. So I was crying. And then we were challenged to sing the Ewok Song of Victory, and people would make recommendations for intrusions in chat, and some of them were just hilarious. But we eventually got to the radioactive volcano fallout, and hilarity ensued. So you'll have to watch the end of it. But it was so much. I mean, it was just so funny. And the people that James brought together, they were all friends of his. I volunteered to game with them because he wasn't sure he's going to have enough people. So I gamed from 9 a.m. until almost 9 p.m. on Saturday, and then I passed out because I was done.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched that game. It was a great game.
I haven't.
And I must say that I was a little jealous. You guys all had the crawls. We were too lazy to do any of that stuff.
We didn't.
Well, we did for the YouTube release.
You did for one.
Yeah, you did for the YouTube release.
Yeah.
Yeah, our crawl though for the YouTube release was basically a great big advertisement for the whole day.
Oh, well, that's yeah.
I was set to our music because I don't have the rights to John Williams' music.
Right. Exactly.
So,
exactly. Or you could have had everybody sing it.
No.
Oh my gosh. But we did. We had so much fun. Actually, to be fair, it was probably the best way to start out because it was so ludicrous and ridiculous. And we just didn't, I mean, it was totally not child friendly or Saturday morning cartoon appropriate at all.
I still haven't managed to see it. I saw like the first 10 minutes.
Oh, you did? Oh, because you had to get the rest. Oh,
I had to run errands and other things before my games.
But I will say my droid who murders that I played in Manhunt, Tatooine Manhunt, was probably my favorite character. Only because because I gamed in, because I think it helped that we gamed in person. And
I'm sensing a pattern here with you, Monica.
Well, so I wanted to play another character that murdered for the second game, but Andrew had already pre-gen characters for both games. But that was going to be my goal, was to play 3 different types of murder characters, and so that you could see how they were different.
She was going to murder Hobo everything.
I was going to murder Hobo all the way through July or May the 4th, but it didn't work out that way. But that had been my plan, especially if I played in your game. Then it was definitely going to have to be a thing.
Yeah, if you would have played in his game, you would have passed out halfway.
I probably.
Well, she did the same number of games. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It was just.
It was like training for Gen Con.
Yeah. But it was glorious.
You know what? Speaking of Gen Con, these guys over here, they went to sleep on me. They all teetered out. And I'm the old guy of the bunch.
I get that.
You know, it's funny.
I also drank way more than you did.
And therein lies the reasoning.
I've realized that there's. I mean, last year when we went to Gen Con, I actually had an app. I have an app on my phone that like monitors my sleep. You know, it's not unlike a Fitbit, but it's just on my phone, and I averaged about an hour and a half of sleep a night. the entire time we were there, because we stayed outside the city proper, So it was like, so we'd had to get up early in the morning and drive in,
Yeah.
and then by the time we got home and everything, we'd have, you know, between showering and everything, my average sleep time was like between an hour and a half and 2 hours every
Yeah,
night.
we were like a half an hour away from the con.
Yeah, we Ubered in every day.
Mm-hmm.
We have done that in years past.
Yeah, and that's what we did, and that's probably what we'll end up doing this year if we go in at all. I think we'll probably Uber instead of driving and parking, because we'll probably end up spending
We'll
2 nights or
yeah.
something. We have to see.
Oh, speaking of that, they do have parking passes this year, right, for Gate 10.
Oh,
right
you know
there.
what? Then that's a good place to
that
park
was-
too.
That was actually we did there was
An
a
event
party
there.
that we went to there last year, and that was a really nice discovery.
Yeah, it ended up being a good place because it was off the beaten path enough that people weren't just wandering in, and we had the whole facility to ourselves. So
And if they have parking,
yeah, and if they have parking there, we could just park there, and then they shuttle you over. So
right?
I'm gonna,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I'm
awesome.
gonna. As a matter of fact, because we're driving in, and that's how I know about it. Go to the Gen Con website, or you may even got an email, but go to Gate 10 Parking, and they actually have a listing for Gen Con, and I got it because I'm gonna pick up our badge probably tomorrow, our parking pass, because you can buy the parking pass in advance.
oh, well, that's probably not a bad idea before they all
Mhm.
sell out. We
Yeah.
have to wait till next week because payday's a thing.
Right, and now we've told a
Yeah.
bunch of people about it.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
no!
we've only told Jeff Lee and Scott and Terry. By the
There
time
goes
people
your
watch
parking passes.
it, by the time you get this up on YouTube, we'll have ours.
No,
Yeah, I'm gonna, like I said,
Dee's gonna go on tonight. It's gonna be like sold out.
Actually, so it's funny. They're talking about me. They're talking about me in chat and how I'm a murderer of one. I'm like a raven. And then somebody else has multitudes within one. My Sunday night character actually was a multitude at one point. She ended up having two. She had two of herself. We we went through a different dimension, and my alternate there, her psyche hitched a ride with mine. So I'm used to referring to myself as us, we. I got all of it down. I'm all about murdering and multitudes. I'm Legion.
No, yeah. Okay.
Yes, murder is my way. So, did you think of what it was now that I've
No, I have
entertained
no
you?
idea.
Okay, well, I tried to cover for you,
have no
man. Give you
idea.
time to
I
think
know,
and
it was like,
everything.
I didn't end up thinking about that. I'll think about it in about 4 a.m.
So when he posts it to Facebook, everybody acknowledge it, okay?
or not.
Is it or not?
Or not?
Or not.
I won't.
No, I really do like the fact that Cypher's got, like I said, it's got easy combat. It's got I don't know. I can't even think of what it was. It might have just been those two things, really.
Well, I think it's nice. Go ahead.
I mean,
I was just saying the article that Charles Ryan wrote, and I reference it all the time. It just summed it up the best. It said Cypher system, the rules are designed for the players, not for the game master. So you as a game master are truly free to tell whatever story you want because of the modular nature of the rule system.
mhm.
You can put in, what you want, take out what you don't want. It's easily modifiable, to fit whatever. I mean, one of our favorite things to do, like we did with, just for because I love superheroes and like power shifts.
Mhm.
We use power shifts to even, do things like power stunts, instead of your character being stuck, just in one simplistic, mundane thing. You know what? You can give up a power shift to modify an ability or,
Right.
whatever it is you want to do with Cypher system, it can be done. I put a tweet out. Yeah, I put a tweet out earlier today that Cypher system to me was the ultimate gateway into tabletop RPGs for people who've never played.
Actually, I saw that post earlier today. I think I even liked it.
And
If
that's
I wasn't
how I
slacking.
look at it.
It is a really good gateway.
Mhm. It's actually, it is my preferred system now to teach people what role playing is about, because it allows people to use the creativity that they think role playing is about and actually do it. Because when you sit down to play like Pathfinder or 5th Ed or any like more rules heavy gaming, you're spending so much time trying to figure out, well, what does this piece do and how does the math work and what is all of this and that. And when you sit down and play Cypher, you actually are sitting down and creating a story. And it's sort of like jumping into the game midstream, even though you're not really jumping into the game midstream. You're able to get enough of the basic rules in a very short amount of time. That's why I really like actually running at Gen Con, because I can show people just how fast you can start a game. You don't have to sit down and do a lot of work. I mean, even character creation isn't all that hard, even though we don't do it at conventions typically. Like, you're ready to go. You don't have to buy a bunch of feats and buy a bunch of skills and figure out and you get enough XP very quickly. You can just add on to your character in the middle of combat when you really need to kill somebody good.
Right. Or in the middle of whatever the situation is, whatever the narrative is that you need to do. And actually this actually brings us back around. And I did remembered. So one of the things I really like about combat in Cypher and the way the game runs in general is you get a lot of player agency and a lot of options on the table. And I like the fact that when you're when you're in combat, your character has to make choices that are literally about life and death, and that if you make the wrong choices, you are spending points out of your pools. And you can literally whittle yourself down. You
can kill yourself accidentally.
Well,
deliberately.
And you can make those sorts of those sorts of choices for your character. You get that agency, but you also get that sense of battles are taxing. And they actually put a strain on the character in ways that hit points just don't do.
You don't really get that feel.
Wound levels alone don't do.
The whole idea of resource management.
I love the resource management aspect of Cypher.
Yeah, the resource management.
And it's funny because some people really hate it, but I'm the exact opposite. To me, it makes perfect sense. You know, in any of the pools, if you're constantly running and you're constantly trying to, you know, your speed is obviously going to deplete over time. You know, it works with intellect. It works with might. It just makes sense to me.
To me, it just adds. It actually adds to the suspension, you know, or I should say the immersion.
Right.
You know, to me, it adds that. It makes me feel like I'm in a movie. You know, because I think about it. You know, think about that scene in, I don't know, any great action movie. You watch Die Hard, for example, and you know, John McClane's got his feet all cut. He's worn out. He's tired. You know, he's probably got, you know, 2 might left. You know, he's physically drained. He's mentally drained. But then he makes his recovery roll. You roll that D6 right there in the middle. You know what? And you got just enough intestinal fortitude left to give that yippee-ki-yay. And boom, boom, boom. You know, it's great.
Right.
You know?
And by doing that, he applied effort and further depleted his pool.
And so by the end of it, he's like fallen over and just done. I am done. He's collapsing on the, you know, in the second movie, he's collapsing on the tarmac like, in the snow. And
I mean, on the server, we had this discussion multiple times about, can Cypher be deadly? And the majority of the people, their opinion was that it can't be. And I think that's hogwash. I've run John Carpenter's The Thing. I've run multiple zombie games where I've killed TPK'd the whole party. So don't tell me it can't be deadly.
Right. On the surface, it doesn't look deadly. And if
our Friday night game, I've been down to debilitated on the
damage track.
Yeah, the damage track in the same game when we played the Pirates of the Gas Giant or whatever it was. I was hurting bad. I think all I had left was my intellect.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Cypher games. I have played a couple of Cypher games. Matter of fact, we played a gritty superhero game one time, and yeah, very similar. I had a character who was almost out of intellect, and was down to 3 speed points. It was crazy.
I have not killed a character yet. However, it came very, very close one Sunday night. The one where she spent the 4 experience points to
3.
the 3 experience points to get the skill and beat on our villain. That villain was the mentor of one of the other characters.
It's Scott's character.
His criminal mentor.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
And so to break out all the stops, Scott blew through a bunch of things and he was getting hit for other things. He'd been poisoned and everything else. We get to the end of the battle, everything is wrapped up, and we have a Works Miracles character in that group. So healing it comes easy for this party. We get to the end of it. She had healed him already once, maybe twice. I lost track. And we get to the end of the fight. He had 1 intellect left.
Wow.
Have you guys played
Everything
with the
else was
horror rules?
gone. We have played with the horror rules, but not very often. I have worked them into our Numenera game a couple of times, and we've played a couple of one-shots where we used them, where we were ticking up the horror die.
Yeah, that once that intrusion rule gets to 8 or 9, it's really
scary.
Yeah.
We played the zombie game. Oh my God, the zombie game that we played, that was one of those situations. It was like me and one other character. We survived. Everybody else, we watched our friends get basically swarmed by half the city. It was like crazy. And those horror just kept going up and up and up.
Right. So for chat, there is an optional rule in the Cypher core rulebook under the horror chapter, and basically what you do is you keep track of, and you do it with like a die or some other way of tracking it,
like a D10,
right, on the table where everybody can see it, and you tick up this counter, and every time it ticks up, normally if you roll a 1, that's an automatic intrusion for your GM. Yeah. As tensions grow in a horror game, every time you tick that up, that increases the range in which the automatic intrusions come in.
So it goes to a 1 and a 2. And
the minute you roll an intrusion, when you activate the horror rules, the minute you roll an intrusion, that first one is a 1.
Right.
The minute you roll it now, 1s and 2s.
Right.
Do it.
Right.
And every time you roll another intrusion, it ticks it up another notch.
Or if the GM ratchets up the horror in some other way.
Right.
So it keeps making that more and more dangerous. You can actually have an intrusion on a successful roll at that point too.
Yeah. Right. So, which we had,
Yeah, we did. Yep.
So I hate to cut this short, but I know we wanted you. A couple of you guys needed to call it early, and I know Monica needs to call it. And she's giving me the 10-10 look.
Monica got to bring home that bacon.
I do, and I have to be up early to go do that.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock is not going to care that I need to be up or not.
So, right, and somebody's telling me it's 4 a.m. in Germany, and I can't see who it is on
Terry.
my. Oh, it's Terry. Oh, well, it doesn't. Unless
Terry's
Terry
not
went to
in
Germany. For a moment, I thought somebody was saying that they were up and it was 4 a.m. in Germany. I'm like,
no, I don't think we have
watching
anybody
it at 4 a.m.
because they love us.
But
maybe
I don't want to cut everybody short here, but I think we kind of need to.
Well, it's not like we can't have you guys back on.
Health and sanity, but absolutely.
Anytime you guys want to have me on, I love to talk. So,
Yeah, we like talking. So
it's like we do it for fun or something.
Right.
And if you want to help us do it for money, you can back us at patreon.com/Marlowe House.
Nicely played.
I'm working really hard on trying to get that stuff out there. Do you like that?
That was nicely
so
done.
subtle.
We'll just say this from, us at the CU, check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share, all that, and come on the Discord channel and game. If you come on Discord and tell us you subscribe and you want us to run a game, you got it,
Yep.
Also check us out on Twitter, and we do a ton of interviews, including Marlowe House. So if you want to go back and look at our back catalog, we have a great interview with Marlowe House.
Yeah.
So please
was
check
fun.
us out.
Mhm.
It was fun having you on. You guys are welcome anytime.
All right.
All right.
Next week we got Alligator Alley Entertainment, the
Bro.
creators that Espergenesis. So check that out.
Okay, cool.
Ooh.
And one last thing to you guys at Marlowe House.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have to come on. We have to get together and we have to stream a live GM roulette. You guys have to get it.
All right, I'm going to ask this real quick. What exactly do you guys do for GM roulette? Do you guys like pick a GM randomly for that too, as
Oh,
well
no.
as like the setting, or is it like
I'll give you a quick overview.
right?
Very quick overview.
Because our
GM
audience
roulette.
doesn't know.
No.
GM roulette. Everybody at the table gets to be a GM for 30 minutes. So it literally runs around the table, but everything is chosen randomly. Your characters are random. The setting is random. The person who starts gets 35 minutes to set the story going. Then each GM takes a piece until the last person who also gets a 35 minutes to go.
Just to backtrack it a little, you have a list of 100 characters that are pre-designed for 20 different genres. So everyone before the game starts is going to pull one of these characters. So it could be from any genre. Like Monica could get a Western. You could get a noir setting.
Mhm.
Dean could get a supers character. I could get a character. And then we roll to see who GMs first. Everyone rolls to see who GMs first. Then we have an order now. After that, whoever got the first roll picks the genre. And he has 5 minutes to come up with a narrative based on the 5 characters that we all randomly, based on the 4 characters we all randomly pick.
This
my
sounds
God.
hilarious.
Can I play an Ewok? Oh wait.
And if you want, check out, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can actually see 2 actual GM roulettes that we have up.
Okay.
One was a fairy tale, and we were in
Candyland, the board game.
Candyland, and the other one was a supers game, and we all ended up being villains,
Yeah.
super villains. So,
But you have no idea what you're getting. It's total improv. The only thing you know is the character sheet you have in front of you.
So it's like
Yep.
Iron GM from Pathfinder.
Kind of, but
Only,
different.
but different.
But round the table.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll try to figure out when we can schedule that. But we are going to have to cut it off here. So thank you.
Monica's turning into a pumpkin.
I am.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I get tired and then I can't take it anymore. You don't want me to pass out here on the table. That's all I can say. Thank you guys for showing
Thanks.
up and being part of our weekend.
Yeah, thank you for running this weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. We truly appreciate it. We love you guys.
We
Keep
love
up
you
the great
guys.
work.
It's mutual appreciation.
So I'm Monica Marlowe.
I'm Andrew Marlowe.
This has been Marlowe House Insights and Inspiration. Everybody have a great night. See you next
Good
week. Or Friday.
Friday. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Good night.